welcome to episode 2 of Pipe Smoking with Colonel Calabash. Later on we'll be talking about the different pipe materials, things that pipe bowls are made out of. But I want to start off with a little story. Back in my Air Force days, you were still allowed to smoke in the office. So one day I decided I'd light up my pipe. Now I worked with a couple of guys, they were civilians, but they were great guys, but they were also practical jokers. So as I started to lunch one day, I had filled up my pipe, hadn't lit it yet, just filled it up. And I thought, well, I'll go to lunch and light this when I get back. So I laid my pipe on the desk. That was a mistake. I went to lunch and I came back. I reached over and got the pipe and I lit it up. And one of the most foul odors that I have ever smelled came from that pipe. And I knew that was not the tobacco that I smoked that caused that. And I thought, ooh, what is this? Well, one of the civilian guys' desks was right next to mine, and he could not stand it any longer. He began to just laugh out loud, and I knew then he was the culprit that did something to my pipe. I just didn't know what. So I let it go out, and I took a paper clip, and I scratched around in the tobacco there, and dear old Ed had cut up a rubber band and put it in my pipe and then covered it back over with a layer of tobacco. So needless to say, don't put rubber bands in your pipe. Fortunately, it was a type of pipe, and we'll discuss that later, that it didn't hurt it, but it sure stirred up a foul odor. As I said, we're going to talk about some of the different materials that pipes are made out of. And it would be anything but you could come up with, but here are some of the good things. First thing is briar. Now we all know that most pipes that I have seen are made of briar. And I will insert something right here. The opinions I'm going to give on these things are mine, and you might not agree. But briar is one of the best things that you can get to make a pipe out of. They are usually the growth from the root of a white heath tree. It's a dense wood. They started making the briar pipe around 1820, somewhere in that area, and they are still, of course, making them today. The next material is one of my favorites, and it only has one drawback that I know of. That is the corncob pipe. They've been around for many years. People have made them in different shapes with different materials for stems. Some of the best ones that I know of come from Missouri Meerschaum, and they grow their own cobs to make those pipes. Also another company, Old Dominion, they also make some excellent pipes, and they also grow their own corn to make the pipes. Now the only thing that I dislike about Old Dominion is the fact that they do use a reed stem, and that's just something that's not popular with me. Now let's talk about another corn cob that I would suggest that you stay as far away from as you can. There are a lot of Chinese pipes, and they're corn cobs, and they're a poor quality of corn cob and a poor quality of pipe. And I just don't like them. Now, as far as overall corn cob, the only drawback I can find to a corn cob pipe is the longevity. They usually will not last as long as a briar pipe, but still, you don't pay as much for a corn cob pipe as you do a briar pipe. You can get corn cob pipes starting at around $5, $6. And in another show, we're going to talk some more about why you should buy a corncob pipe. The next material we're going to discuss is the meerschaum. Meerschaum is hydrated magnesium silicate. It's sort of a clay or chalky-like substance, mostly from Turkey. It is a cooler smoking pipe, and it does not ghost. Now, if I happen to have someone out there that doesn't know what ghosting is, it's where you smoke one type of tobacco in your pipe, you change to another in the same pipe, and you may get a little taste of the previous tobacco that you smoked in there. And a meerschaum doesn't ghost, so that's a good thing about it. They usually come as a very clean looking white, but as you smoke those over a period of time, they will change colors. And you will find that in a lot of meerschaum pipes, that change of color makes it more attractive to other pipe smokers. Some smoked meerschaums sell possibly for more than they did when they were new. There's two types of meerschaums. There's block and there's pressed. If you buy a meerschaum pipe, you want blocked meerschaum. And what that is just simply the meerschaum as they dig it out of the ground, and the carver makes a pipe out of it. A pressed is remnants of meerschaum that is exactly what it says. It's pressed back together. Now, meerschaum pipes are fairly lightweight if they're blocked. A pressed meerschaum may be heavy. In fact, it probably will be heavy. So try to stay away from the pressed meerschaum pipes. Now, if there is a downside to meerschaum, it is simply the fact that you can't walk around in damp weather or the rain, because it very well may do damage to that pipe. Also, a meerschaum pipe does not add flavor to the tobacco. They're usually carved in Turkey and Germany. Another word for meerschaum is sea foam, and the first meerschaums were carved around 1723. They were in Austria and Germany, and of course now Turkey. At one time, it's believed that Germany bought a lot of meerschaum from Turkey, and the Germans carved it, and there wasn't that many Turkish carvers, but now there are many, many good Turkish carvers. Okay, our next material, and you don't see a lot of these anymore, but it's phenolic or carbon. Another word is pyrolytic graphite or carbon. This is the type of pipe I was smoking the day that the rubber band ended up in it. And you can actually wash these pipes. So that's why I say it didn't hurt it that day. The Redmond Oil Company or Corporation manufactured some pipes with translucent stems in the 1920s. And a series of pipes were manufactured and distributed by Targard Corporation, which was later known as Ventura. This was a company out of San Francisco, and from Ventura, they used materials such as we mentioned, and there were some other synthetic items involved too, allowing for higher temperatures in the bowl, reduced tar, aesthetic variations in color and style. After Ventura stopped making pipes, several companies continued to make pipes from Brylon, which is a composite of nylon and wood flour, and it was a cheaper substitute for the briar. All these things have been around the 60s and 70s, and you still can get some, and you can get a lot of these things on eBay. They are quite heavy. They do smoke a little warm, but they're colorful and different things. One company made one they called the Pipe. That was the first one of the types that I had come across, was the Pipe. Later on, they made another series called the Smoke. And to me, the difference was the Smoke was in Danish shapes, whereas the Pipe was in traditional shapes. Now there's a lot of cheaper substitutes for briar or meerschaum. Other woods such as pear, cherry, hickory, maple. There are some rosewood pipes out, but there's some questions about the rosewood pipe, and that is as to whether or not rosewood gives off toxic fumes. Now I have two rosewood pipes. I haven't had a bit of problem with them, but there is possibly some danger there. The next material I'll talk about is porcelain. There are some beautiful pipes that are made with porcelain bowls. A lot of Tyrolean pipes have porcelain bowls. Some of the inserts on Calabash pipes are also porcelain. Couple of things about porcelain though. Usually, not always, but usually, the bowls of a porcelain pipe are thin. Therefore, they do smoke hot, and also they're very, very fragile. So you have to be careful with a porcelain bowl. One of the oldest materials that can be formed or poured into a pipe bowl is porcelain. Clay bowls. Here again, one of the oldest materials that can be formed or poured into a mold is a clay pipe. However, here again, most clay pipes that I have ever had smoked hot, and they were very fragile. Now, a lot of clay pipes you see are rather plain. They have a straight stem on them and just kind of a round, plain bowl. But if you look around, you will also see some very, very ornate clay pipes. They look great, but here again, remember, they're going to smoke a little hot, and they are fragile. Now, I've got two more things I want to talk to you about on pipe material. And to me, I'm saving one of the best to last. So let's talk about metal pipes. Now, you see a lot of Chinese pipes, little bitty tiny bowls, and they're made out of metal, such as brass, different metals like that. And those aren't exactly for smoking what you would say traditional tobacco. So we're not talking about those pipes. There was one pipe made that I considered a good metal pipe. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that have a metal shank on them and then go into the stem, but they've got a wood bowl. I'm talking about a metal pipe. And that was the Aristocob. It was indeed a metal pipe, but it had a corncob insert and a screw-on cap, and you put that corncob insert in it, and it was a decent smoking pipe. You did have to change that corncob every once in a while. At that time, you could buy them. I don't know if they're still manufactured or not. I've seen a few on eBay, but they may or may not still make those. A metal pipe is an absolutely awful, to me, pipe. And I'll tell you where you're finding some things that are what I call metal pipes. The Chinese are coming out with pipes, and I had one that was a black Calabash, and what it was a nylon outside with a metal bowl insert. This is about as bad a pipe as you can possibly find anywhere. They smoke extremely hot. That metal insert usually comes up and curves over the top of the nylon bowl, and you can just about ignite a match by sticking it to the bowl or to the bowl insert after you light it. They get hot. They are terribly, terribly uncomfortable to smoke. Now, the last item I want to talk to you about is one that really intrigues me. I am totally fascinated by it, and I think a lot of people are. It's called morta. Another name for it is bog oak. These are oak trees that thousands of years ago fell into a peat bog. They're partially petrified, not totally, but partially. And they are making pipes that are absolutely gorgeous from them now. But here's a couple of things you need to know about a mortar pipe. First of all, the darker the color of the mortar that they use, the older the mortar is. And we're talking 5,000-6,000 years old here. If it's brown, it won't be as old as one that's black. So that's one thing you can look for in a mortar pipe to kind of tell how old that bog oak was. They make some gorgeous pipes, but possibly, and I don't know because I don't own one yet, I'm going to though, possibly one drawback to a mortar pipe may be, I have been told that they do offer a slight taste to the tobacco. Now, I don't know how long this lasts. It may only last till you sort of break this pipe in, or it may be permanent, but they do say it does offer a little variance to the taste of your tobacco. But let's face it, having a pipe that's made out of wood that is thousands of years old is a little bit intriguing, I think. Now, these are the materials that I know of that they make pipes out of. Now, someone mentioned to me, well, they make glass pipes. Yes, they do. They make glass pipes, but they're not for tobacco. We're talking about tobacco pipes on our show. I've enjoyed having everyone here. I thank you for the response we've had so far. And I want you to tune in again next Friday, and we'll have episode 3 of Pipe Smoking with Colonel Calabash. Thank you for tuning in, and happy pipe smoking.